Alright, Ayaka, the queen of simps. She puts everything into freeze, defeating her enemies in a breeze. She made her fanbase fall on their knees, forcing everyone to beg and say please. Nice. Okay, before we start the video, I just want to mention that only a small percentage of you guys are actually subscribed to my channel, so if you watch my videos often, consider leaving a like and subscribe because it's free and you can always change your mind. Story time. Ayaka was born into the Kamisato clan, one of the 3 main clans in Inazuma City. She has a brother named Ayato, whom we know nothing about other than the fact that he takes care of government issues, and he is adept with a polearm. Wink wink, character teaser when Ayaka, who's more popular than her brother in both Teyvat and the internet, takes care of clans' internal and external affairs. She is known as the Shirshigashimashiagami-himegimme, admired by the people for her beauty, dignified demeanor, noble character, and being voiced by Shinobu from Demon Slayers. Starting with her elemental abilities, elemental skill, Cryo Venti E. Ayaka creates a giant snowflake around her that lifts her enemies upwards, dealing cryo damage. Yeah, that's it. Elemental Burst, Malevolent Shrine. Ayaka creates a cryo wind that slashes and cuts enemies that are in the way, then explodes, dealing AoE cryo damage after a while. Yeah, that's it. Shift key. You become the Cryo Mona, and when she reappears, she applies cryo to nearby enemies and also infuses her sword with cryo, effective immediately, making this PP blocker pointless to use with Shinobu. Moving on to passive talents. Passive 1, some unnatural high. After using Cryo Venti E, Ayaka does 30% more normal and charge attack damage for 6 seconds. Passive 2, some pervert high. When Ayaka touches people with cryo after using her shift key, she gains 10 stamina and 18% cryo damage bonus. Passive 3, some hammering high. When Ayaka hammers weapon essential materials, she has a 10% chance to double the product.
What does it matter? I know just as well as anybody else that I've got no friends.
Moving on to Constellations, definitely the longest and slowest part of the video. Constellation 1, fuck you cooldowns, I have money. When Ayaka's normal and charge attack deals cryo damage, it has 50% chance of reducing the cooldown of Cryo Venti E by 0.3 seconds. Constellation 2, fuck you abilities, I have money. When Ayaka casts her Malevolent Shrine, she has 2 more slashy winds that deals 20% less damage than the original. Constellation 3, fuck you burst talent level, I have money. Burst does more damage. Constellation 4, fuck you enemy defense, I have money. Ayaka burst now reduces the enemy defense by 30%. Constellation 5, fuck you skill talent level, I have money. Elemental skill does more damage. Constellation 6, fuck you damage balance, I have money. Every 10 seconds Ayaka will increase her charge attack damage by 298%. Wow. Lots of fuck yous in there, huh? Well, almost like someone who made this video had a grudge on Ayaka's Constellation for several reasons. Moving on to artifacts. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I want my Ayaka to do damage. I'm sure most of you want to as well, so I built DPS. So attack percentage for Sands, cryo damage bonus for Goblet, then lastly crit damage or crit rate for Circlet, like any other cryo DPS. For substats, crit damage and crit rate is both very important, but I do think this will depend on what Pset you're using. Attack percentage is also important for substats, and I guess a little bit of energy recharge will do you no harm. If you're worried about her energy recharge that much, don't, because cryo resonance exists in this game and it gives you 15% crit rate. So now let's talk about Psets. For beginners, 2-piece Berserkers and 2-piece Martial Arts is probably the best choice. You can also use Exiles if you really want. For endgame, you can technically use the 4-piece Gladiator set, but it's not my first choice. If you are using Ayaka for burst support, I guess the Severed set will work. If you truly want to focus on the badassery of Ayaka's charge attack damage, then the Reminiscent set is for you. Although, I doubt that you have the perfect 4-piece ready at day 4 of Inazuma's release. Which comes to the final piece set, which is what I use, the 4-piece Blizzard Strayers. I think this piece set is easily accessible, but the main strength of this piece set is that it increases your cryo damage and it also increases your crit rate by 40% if you're using a freeze comp. If you also add up the cryo resonance, then that's 55% crit rate without any artifacts, which is ridiculously high amount. But this will depend on whether you want to build the freeze team or not. Otherwise, you can just use the 2-piece Blizzard and 2-piece whatever attack percentage you want. Reminiscent or Gladiators. Either is fine. Alright, story time 2. Ayaka has no friends. like everyone else who plays this game. Moving on to weapons, starting with 5 stars, Raiden Booba Sword, probably the best choice for Ayaka. Pretty high base attack stat and crit damage stat does help a lot with damage. The ability is also pretty perfect for Ayaka as well. Jade Cutter, another amazing choice, but your choice in this weapon will probably depend on whether you're using the Blizzard Strayers or not, because if you are building the Blizzard Strayers, I think the crit rate from this weapon is unnecessary. Skyward, the battery sword and also the ability of this the sword probably covers some damage as well. Probably good for normal and charge attack builds. Then again, you probably don't need energy for that, so this will again depend on you. Aquila ability is really good, but physical damage, which is going to be annoying to you, especially because of her sprint converting your normal attack to cryo damage, so probably wouldn't use this. Summon Shaper. If you have shields, then yes, big damage. Kazuha sword. Sure, if I pulled this without Kazuha, sure. Moving on to 4 stars. Blackcliff. High crit damage, decent ability, but costs star glitter. Probably what I would go for if I don't have mist splitter. Credit card. Probably unnecessary if you're using the 4-piece blizzard destroyers. Royal. Timmy of all weapons, and yes, in this case, it really is. Lion's Roar. Probably would recommend the other attack sword. Alley Flash. Maybe if you are using Melt. Festering Desire. Maybe, but probably would recommend the other free-to-play weapon. Sacrificial. Unnecessary. Favonius. Unnecessary. Flute. I guess. Moving on to free-to-play weapons. Iron Sting. No. Prototype. No. Inazuma sword that looks good on Ayaka. Yup. I do think a few refinement ranks can help you a lot as well for this. So for teams, if you do have the 4-piece Blizzard Destroyers, I guess going for Cryo Resonance isn't a bad idea. And of course, Hydro units are necessary for this team as well. And since Ayaka's burst is consistent rather than one big damage, I would probably recommend Freeze more than Melt. But it's your choice, do whatever. So for Cryo Resonance, I think Rosaria or Diona is the best choice. Rosaria gives crit rate, Diona gives you shields, heals, and stamina reduction, so use what you want, I guess. For Hydro applications, Xingqiu, you can also use Barbara if you want to, but I personally think Xingqiu gets the job done anyways. For the last spot, I personally just use the Animal unit here. I like Kazuha because he gives me attack up. You can also put the 4-piece Archaic Albedo or Traveler here if you want, but I wanted some CC for Ayaka's burst, so I just went for Kazuha, but you can use Sucrose or Venti as well. If you are using the Melt team, I think Animal units with continuous elemental infusion is going to help you a lot. Most of you are probably going to pop in a Bennett and be done with it for the Pyro application, so there you go. Also, don't use Electro units with Ayaka because it doesn't do anything for you unless you're going with the physical. So how the fuck do you play Ayaka? Well, personally, since I use a freeze team for Ayaka, I usually put Ayaka in my last rotation until everyone is frozen, but some tips I guess. Number 1, press shift as often as possible. Now the shift key has its mobility purposes, but the important part about her shift key is that it increases your crowd damage and regenerates 10 stamina when you touch someone with it. So do that a lot because they'll hate it. Number 2, use your Cryo Venti E before you start charge attacking because it increases your normal and charge attack damage by 30%, which is almost like a 4-piece Gladiator set. So use that. That's it though. That's literally, Ayaka's not a hard character to play. That's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, consider leaving a like and subscribe. But other than that, bye-bye.